people make us laugh the way he does. For over 50 years, his cartoons have held us in their thrall. But how does he do it? And more importantly, what is he himself like? Well, those are just two of the many questions that I'm going to put today to India's greatest cartoonist, R K Laxman. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Let's start with the common man. He's been around for so long that most people think he's a member of the family. Now, how did you conceive of him?
Well, he found me, I didn't find him. He was there. You see, when we got our independence, I had to do a lot of cartoons on Indians and the common people of this country came to be drawn many times. And the common people are not the same. Bengali doesn't look like Maharashtrian, Maharashtrian doesn't look like Rajasthani or Punjabi or South Indian or Keralite. So I had to draw them every time when there is a matter of common man came into the theme. I had to draw all of them, which was time consuming. Each one standing with his arms akimbo and scratching his nose and so on and so forth. It became a lot of time, but time consuming is our journalists have no time at all, particularly the cartoonist. It takes about 6 hours.
So you created the common man as a
No,
symbol?
I used to draw a crowd of these people. Slowly I started eliminating one by one. The Rajasthani went, the Bengali went, this went, that fellow went. Finally there was one man standing and watching me, smiling. That was the common man, in striped coat, toothbrush, moustache, and black eyebrows, and large glasses, and big nose.
He's gone on to become as popular as Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, and yet I gather the great Shankar once told you to drop him.
At that time, Shankar thought I was created something which would overwhelm his own importance. Perhaps he thought so, which indeed it did.
So he was jealous?
He said, you should not draw the common man because he must, then it won't be political cartoon and all that he started telling. And nobody tells me anything. I totally self-made and opinionated.
And determined to do what you want?
Continuously.
And yet, you know, the amazing thing is, looking at your great career, you never formally trained to draw.
Who can train man like me? Nobody can. And I never learnt it from anybody. There has been no teacher whatsoever. Never learnt it from anybody.
You taught yourself?
Completely. I completely taught in the sense I looked at life around me. I studied anatomy, drapery, perspective by myself. When young people come to me and ask how to draw a cartoon, I said, from life you start drawing. Don't copy.
But you did once apply to the J.J. School of Art in Bombay, didn't you?
I did, because I had failed in SSC, and I told my parents I don't want to continue my studies, because all my brothers were BA, BSc, MA and all that. One man, please let me go. They said, welcome, do it. I applied for J.J. School of Arts. Bang came the reply saying that you show no talent whatsoever for drawing or art.
As bold a reply as that, you have no talent.
Please continue your studies. I continued my studies and passed in philosophy, economics, politics. European philosophy, Indian philosophy, economics, politics, which stood by me, in fact, in my career, because I could understand economics of the country and philosophy and all that stood by me.
But the story about the J.J. School of Art doesn't end there, does it? Years later, when you were...
Years later, when I became somewhat known, the professors, not the same person who wrote the letter, but about 10, 15 years later, another person came and said, will you kindly come and distribute our prizes and awards for the new graduates. I said, yes, I went. Then I went round looking at the paintings of the young people, and the award was given to them. I handed over the awards, shaking hands with them and saying, do well, very good, that's it. all the usual cliches. Then I sat down. Then professors who were looking at me said, speech, speech. I said, I can't make any speech. No, one short speech, I'll make it. I stood up and narrated how J.J. School of Law rejected me. And I also said, thanks for rejecting me. I am grateful to this institution. If I had been accepted, 4 years I would have wasted sitting in that corner, learning nothing, but ending up in an ad agency, drawing faces of women and children and soap and toothbrush.
And the common man would never have been born?
Would never have been there.
So what did the professors say?
They clapped. Some of them were shocked.
Of course, the J.J. School's loss became the Times of India's gain many years later. You've been in that paper for 50 years, but I gather...
55 years.
55 years. I gather there's a very interesting story about how you actually got the job. I believe you just walked in one day and asked for it.
I resigned from the previous job, which was a cartoonist job in another newspaper. I walked up the stairs and sat near the editor's chamber and sought an interview. He said, you can't see the editor, he's Ivar Juhu, he's busy. What do you want? I'm a cartoonist. Oh, go upstairs to see the art director. I went upstairs. The art director was one Walter Langhammer, the very name would have put you out because terribly resonant sounding. And I thought, I didn't know how he looked. The door opened and he walked out. He looked exactly like his name. Huge, arms that big, blonde hair, gruff voice. Who are you? You are R K Laxman to come to see me? Yes. What is it about? I want to be cartoonist. Come in. I went in. Where were you working? I said, this paper. Ah, you are R K Laxman. I like your cartoons. You draw something for me. I drew. Very good. How much salary were you getting before? 250. I want 300, I said. He went down, brought 500 rupees.
More than you ever thought you'd get?
No, I never imagined. After that, Times of India, I must say, looked after me very well. Going abroad, coming, everything.
But in the beginning, when you joined the Times of India, they didn't permit you to do political cartoons, did they?
They did, indeed, because there was this Berlin Wall and other things which suited the white man. I'm ridiculed. Hitler, Berlin Wall, Mussolini.
But there's a wonderful story you tell in your autobiography of the editor who you went and met and said that you'd like to do political stuff. And he found his own way of encouraging you. You used to do cartoons for him to begin with.
I know, no, to him. And whenever I said, don't publish them, but have a look at them, because I would like to be a cartoonist. All right. He saw and laughed. Slowly what he said was, you should not have, you should have given that cartoon. And I started giving. From then on, the day he said, give it, I started giving.
Today, when you look at your cartoons, do you intend them primarily as comic representation, or are you also making a comment, perhaps even a critique?
Critique is better word of the society, of politics, of stupidity, corruption.
My favorite Laxman cartoon was the day Indira Gandhi lost power in 77. You showed a shopping trolley full of the family belongings with little Sanjay
That's
perched,
right.
holding a comic book in his hand, saying, I know, Mummy, let's go to the new colony on the other side.
Cross the river.
Do you think you were being a little cruel?
There is no such thing as cruelty. Whole humor, satire is a matter of cruelty. It's the way you look at it. What is cruel about it? A politician is cruel to the people, aren't they?
And a cartoonist is cruel to politicians. You got to know Indira Gandhi very well.
Not very well. I met her once or twice or so.
Was she a joy from a cartoonist's point of view? Was she easy to caricature?
She was easy to caricature, but a grim person. But the one who was really good was Nehru. I wanted to see him 5 minutes. He gave me at the Commander-in-Chief's house 5 minutes. I went and sat there. He wouldn't let me go. He talked like this. And everything I told him, he was listening. And finally his secretary came and said, "Sir, somebody is waiting." "Who?" He whispered. "God," he said. "It's Dalai Lama," he said. And he took me to the steps, wished me well, and I left.
Years later, you almost created the way we think of Rajiv. You decided that you were going to pick on his nose and you turned it upwards.
He was too handsome for a caricature. So I distorted him the way I wanted. And he started looking like my caricature afterwards.
So life started imitating cartoons.
Yeah.
What about today's politicians? Are they too bland?
Very bland and colorless. Stereotyped like rubber stamp. There is nothing like Nehru, Indira Gandhi, Vallabhbhai Patel, Kripalani, Maulana Kalam Azad. Each one had an identity which does not exist today.
Has the challenge gone out of cartooning?
It has to a great extent because the cartooning, the politics has become corruption, 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 cabinet. There is no fun anymore in it because there is no personalities. Can you imagine a personality in Bengal today? They all look same to me.
When politicians all look the same, is this, in a sense, from a cartoonist's point of view, a sign that they've lost character?
No, they want to look like the other fellow all the time. That fellow looks like that fellow. Same safari suit or... there is no, like Kripalani and Maulana Kalam Azad, the cap, the color cap and other things have gone.
So is the great R K Laxman a little bored?
I am totally bored with the politics of this country and the newspapers.
You're bored with papers?
But what news you don't have these days?
So how do you motivate yourself every day? Because every single day the cartoon...
Well, it happens. I say that, but there is always something somewhere.
That flash of inspiration still continues.
Somewhere there is a spark.
That spark is perhaps the most important thing in a cartoonist. How do you protect it? How do you ensure that you don't lose the different way you see?
I don't consciously think protect or do anything. If it is there, it is there.
And if one day it stops being there, it won't matter?
It won't be. It won't. It will always be there.
You're confident of that?
I am sure about it.
Let's take a break there. I want to come back in part 2 and talk about the man who hasn't lost his confidence and whose spark continues just as brightly as before. We'll be back in a couple of moments. See you then. Welcome back. My guest is the incredible R K Laxman. Let's talk about your childhood. You grew up in Mysore in the 20s and 30s. You have 5 elder brothers and 2 sisters. Were you spoiled?
To an extent, yes, because they left me free to do what I like. Climb the trees, run across on the compound wall, jump, catch the birds, let them go. Things which usually are objected to by the parents, I was allowed to do.
In your autobiography, you describe your father as a cross between a Roman senator and a volcano, and you nicknamed him the Tiger.
I didn't nickname him because the institution he was teaching as headmaster, they called him Tiger, not me. And he looked like a Roman senator. He was red, and his cheek, nose, and enormous scholar. He used to read hundreds and thousands of books, which we acquired later. And the books were so many, we gifted it to a high school.
You were very close to your mother. In fact, in your book you write, "Whatever I know, I learned from her."
Yes, she was like a almost, she was a friend of not only me, but the rest of the family. And a very talented person, which I used to admire. She was handicraft and other things, she was excelled and won silver medals and so on.
And she played wonderful chess.
And she played chess and defeated the champions of the university, who used to come to our house, have a cup of coffee and play chess.
Were you very close to her?
To
your mother? Were you very close
Yes,
to her?
of course. And then she was a very good tennis player also. My father was also a chess player, but it's a thing, it was my father who taught her chess, and finally he never won.
She beat him every time.
Yes, every time. And he was a tennis player also.
But you know, the amazing thing is that your parents forgot to send you to school.
Not forget, they didn't believe in education.
But they sent your other brothers to school.
Of the type that existed.
But he was a teacher himself.
Yes, but then he said, you know how it is. Just allowed me to grow. Then finally my uncle took me, admitted me.
He picked you up one day and took you straight to school.
Yeah. I kicked my leg and ended. And from then on, I never, even on Sunday, I wanted to go to the school. I became a headache to my parents.
Now, there was one particular friend of yours that you write about in your autobiography, with whom you together created the rough and tough and jolly cricket team.
His name was H. Krishnaswamy. I call him HK. We created the rough and tough and jolly team. And he was a very close friend of mine. We used to bicycle up to Chamundi Hill together. We used to play together. He used to be with me when I sketched in the marketplace, the vegetable sellers and beggars and so on, and encouraged me to a great extent by silently watching me sketch things on the street without interfering.
But there was a time when he actually made friends with someone else and you were very upset.
Yes, he made a friend with another friend, classmate, and all the time he was talking to him and going about. I said, this can't happen.
Were you very possessive?
Yes, but he never talked to me. After that, he was always with Sharif, the name of the other friend. Then Sharif became a good friend of mine. All three of us together lived happily ever after.
Sadly, HK died in very sad circumstances.
It's a sad thing. When I came to Bombay seeking my job in Times of India, he found Mysore, where he was very dull. So he also came and took up a small PG and lived there. And he was a moneyed man. He took all the money and gave it to a stock exchange fellow who diddled him.
He lost everything?
Everything. And he went mad and died in an asylum.
In a lunatic asylum?
Where else? It's a sad thing.
You say that from the very first memory you have, you wanted to do nothing else but draw.
Yeah. Age of 3, 4, I became very fond of crows, which I draw even today. The one bird which is never noticed.
The crow and the common man are the two symbols of
No,
arcade.
and Ganpati.
3 symbols of your pen.
I usually exhibit them, and there is a good sale for the crows. Crow, Ganpati, sale. 9 Ganpatis and 10 crows.
You did a cartoon on the floor when I think you must have been 5 or 6 of your father. He wasn't very amused, but it tickled your mother's fancy. Was that when, looking back, R K Laxman, the cartoonist, was born?
Well, with the chalk and charcoal, I used to play around greatly, and white walls were covered with charcoal drawings. Floor was covered with chalk piece drawings. And my father was sitting and reading the Hindu. And I sketched him. I not knowing that it had come out well. As soon as my mother, who was taking him a cup of coffee, So I burst into laughter. My father never laughed much. What is it? You come and see. He came and saw it. Mischievous fellow, what are you doing? Wipe it out. My mother said, it is not going to be wiped out. All the other sons must come and see it. No, it must go. It went on, and I left the house and went away. I came after 2 hours. My mother had one. My father quietly sat in a corner, and it was there for a number of days till dust and wind removed it.
From that small beginning, sketching on the floor of your home, you've gone on to become the greatest cartoonist this country has.
Is it?
When you look back on your career, are you satisfied? Have you done and shown everything you felt you could?
Yes, satisfaction never comes to a true artist.
So the hunger...
There is always something I should have done, which I have done. I have carved in wood. I have molded with MC, things like Common Man, Ganpati and other things. I have painted on canvas and landscapes. I have written books, short stories, essays, which were all published by the Penguins.
And you still want to do more?
Something more. I've got an idea. I have done a book called The Servants of India, which is all about the domestic servants who come and go away, come and cheat you, and that kind of thing. Penguins have published it. Servants of India. Now I want to write a book on the doctors of India, how they give you pills all the time. It doesn't work.
An expose on the doctors of India.
Yes, I think doctors don't know anything.
So this is the next big thing that R K Laxman is going to do.
I hope I get well soon enough to sit and draw. I mean, write. It's very tiring. Reading the paper has become a bore, I tell you. A bore is not the word. There is nothing politics about it.
Well, on behalf of all those who know and love your cartoons, we look forward greatly to this book. Mr. Laxman, thank you very much for a wonderful
It has been a
interview.
wonderful meeting. I hope you are satisfied.
Enormously.
I'm glad to hear that.